This is what if Naruto was taken to Orochimaru. I hope you enjoy this fully complete story. Make sure you comment ramen to let me know if you would like this to continue. This is a full story which I think you will love. Let's begin. Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata sat, scarcely breathing, behind a rather large row of bushes. Hinata had her Byakugan activated, watching the two ninjas guarding a small building nearly 200 feet away. Sasuke was angry. He had just gotten his life back, and now that damned snake had stolen the person he thought of as his brother. How, he thought. How the hell did he get him without a fight? His hands balled into anxious fists, waiting for the signal to move. He rubbed the back of his neck where the curse seal used to be. Not long after Naruto had brought Sasuke home, and thanks to the help of a seal expert from the hidden sand, Tsunade had managed to remove the seal from the young Uchiha. After a day of healing, both Naruto and Sasuke were moved to a room in the outpatient ward of the hospital. 2 days after that, Tsunade had decided Sasuke's actions had been mainly the fault of the seal and declared him safe from all persecution. Sasuke thought back to the 3rd day after Naruto had brought him home. Flashback. Hey, Naruto. Sasuke mumbled as he sat up in the hospital bed he'd been laying on. He winced as Tsunade attended the numerous wounds that Naruto had had to inflict to beat some sense into him. However, it would take more than a skilled medical nin to heal the wounds of his heart. Naruto looked up from his seat next to the bed. What was that thing? Sasuke asked, causing his best friend to freeze in place. Naruto knew exactly what Sasuke was talking about. He looked at Tsunade, as if asking for her permission to tell his story. She nodded and stood to leave the room. Naruto took a quick, but deep breath. Thanks, Tsunade, Sama, he said as though using the word Sama in reference to Tsunade was difficult. Tsunade froze in place for a moment, an eyebrow cocked in surprise. Did that brat just show me respect? She thought in mild amusement. She then smiled, nodded, and left the room, quietly shutting the door behind her. Naruto sat in silence for a few moments. He gulped and looked at Sasuke. Sasuke was getting impatient, but he knew pushing for a break from the silence might make Naruto lose his nerve. Haven't you guessed yet? Naruto asked, although it was more of a statement, since he knew the answer. Of course I haven't, Dobi, Sasuke replied in frustration. Naruto ran a hand through his thick blonde hair and sighed. How much do you know about the Kyuubi? Sasuke's eyes went wide as dinner plates as suddenly, horribly, it seemed to all make sense. He could only hope that his instincts were wrong for once. You're the 9 tails, he stammered, fighting the urge to back away. No, but it is sealed inside me, Naruto answered, fully expecting his best friend to tell him to get out, or call him a monster, and then, that explains it. Naruto looked up, tears threatening to fall from his eyes. Everything, it all makes perfect sense now, Sasuke finished. He noticed the look of disbelief on Naruto's face. Did you think I'd call you a monster? Now Naruto's eyes went wide. Sasuke saw this, and suddenly felt sick to his stomach. You did, didn't you? Naruto slowly nodded. Silence ensued for a long while as Sasuke considered his response. Finally he spoke again. I'm sorry, Sasuke said, regret deep in his voice. For what? Naruto asked as he wiped his eyes with his arm. For making you doubt me like that. For making you think I'd so easily call you a monster, especially when the real monster is me. Sasuke looked down as he finished his sentence, missing Naruto's expression, which was a mixture of confusion and surprise. I nearly betrayed Konoha. Nearly killed you, he continued as he stared at his right hand. The very same hand that had held the deadly Chidori just a few days earlier. This hand, it was. As Naruto watched in amazement, he saw something that he never had thought possible. There were tears in the eyes of Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke, he thought in question, it was through your body. I could feel your blood, your organs, and it didn't bother me, Sasuke said in a choked voice. Naruto reached a hand out toward his friend. Sasuke, he began. Sasuke slapped Naruto's hand away. No, don't you get it? He screamed in rage and sadness. Sasuke, it was the seal. Naruto began. I almost killed you. Sasuke screamed as tears began to flow. I was so absorbed in avenging my family that I didn't even see the one I had, he cried. Naruto couldn't believe his ears. Family, You consider me family, he said as the tears returned to his eyes. You, Sakura, even Kakashi, you're all I have, and I nearly destroyed that. I nearly lost everything, again. Sasuke said as his tears soaked into his shirt. Naruto suddenly looked very determined. Sasuke, I'll help you. Sasuke looked at Naruto. What? I said I'll help you. I'll help you kill Itachi, Naruto said with conviction, but expecting to be yelled at for suggesting that Sasuke should need help. When no such yelling came, he continued. You don't have to carry that burden by yourself. Sakura and I are here for you. You're not alone anymore. Although he hadn't said anything, Sasuke was gritting his teeth to keep from telling Naruto that it wasn't his fight. But he decided that, at the current time, it wasn't worth it. He hurriedly wiped his eyes. Arigato. He suddenly straightened himself and looked like he had decided something. Naruto. Yeah. Take off your jacket and hold out your arm, he instructed, earning a very strange look from the blonde-haired genin. Naruto cocked an eyebrow. Huh. Just do it, Sasuke answered. Naruto sighed and did as was requested of him. Sasuke turned to face him and made a series of seals. After the last seal, his right index finger had a small glowing symbol hovering just in front of the tip. Naruto looked closer at it. His eyes widened when he saw the symbol was actually the kanji for uchiha. Just then Sasuke spoke. Sasuke was staring at the kanji. I never thought I would use this jutsu. Normally only the head of the family is allowed to. He reached forward with the kanji and touched Naruto's right bicep. A small hissing sound was heard as Naruto flinched. Hot, 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 he yelled indignantly. After the burning stopped, he looked at his arm. The symbol of the House of Uchiha was quickly healing into a scar. He looked up at Sasuke. Sasuke smiled. As much as Sasuke ever did smile anyway. Now you are my brother, officially. In my family's records you will be listed as Uchiha, Naruto. An impossibly huge grin spread over Naruto's face. HHA. He laughed in joy as he launched himself at his newly appointed brother, knocking him over in a huge bear hug. Sasuke was immediately annoyed. Get off of me, Dobi, he yelled. End flashback. Sasuke was brought out of his reverie when the trio heard an explosion to the east. The sound ninjas that were guarding the building left instantly. That's the signal. Let's go, he said with authority. They reached the door. Sasuke, who had been designated team leader in Kakashi's absence, ordered Hinata to activate her Byakugan one more time to make sure they hadn't been seen. Sakura, open the lock, he commanded. Sakura made a short series of seals. A small stream of chakra leaked out from her fingers and entered the lock. In less than 2 seconds a click was heard that indicated the lock was open. She made a slight smile of satisfaction. Ready, she said. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Go slowly. We don't know if there are any traps. Both girls nodded in agreement and walked inside. Sasuke turned to Hinata. Hinata, your Byakugan, he half asked, half commanded. The black-haired heir to the Hyuga clan shook her head. The walls are too thick and they are solid cement. Sasuke frowned. All right then, split up and search. If you find him, contact me, he said, pointing to his headpiece microphone. Both girls nodded in agreement and disappeared. Only small puffs of smoke echoed their existence. Sasuke immediately set off on his own path. He ran quietly, yet swiftly, and soon found himself in front of a heavy iron door. He took a calming breath and pushed it open. He nearly vomited. The stench of death and decay found the young ninja's nostrils. As he surveyed the scene in front of him, he took out a small, circular tin, opened it and put some of the menthol-scented paste that was inside on the skin under his nose to block out the smell. There were bodies everywhere. Most hung from the walls. The ones on the floor lay in piles of their own entrails, which had spilled out from wounds obviously made by some sharp implement. A large number of them still had their eyes wide open as they had been in their moment of death. Sasuke glared at the sight before him in disgust. That sick son of a bee. He was cut off as he heard Sakura's blood-curdling scream. He bolted away from the ghastly scene in the room he had found and ran toward the sound with dread. He ran as hard as he could. Something in Sakura's scream had made him afraid of what it meant. His shoes made very little sound as he ran from door to door, looking for her. He was nearly impaled by a pointed wooden pole when he opened one door. Another door led to a second chamber of horrors like he had found earlier. He quickly shut that one and pushed on. Damn it, he thought in anger and exhaustion. Where the hell is she? He went down a flight of stone stairs and made a sharp right when he thought he heard the sounds of someone retching. His lungs felt like they were on fire by the time he found Sakura. Hinata was there too, and apparently she had been the one throwing up, as she was on her hands and knees, a pool of vomit on the floor in front of her. Sakura, what is it? Sasuke asked as he took the last few steps needed to reach her position. Sakura was shaking badly. Her eyes were impossibly wide with shock as she stared through an open door in front of her. Sakura, he said as he touched her shoulder. The pink-haired Konichi didn't respond. Soku, Ra. He barely got out as he saw what had caused his friend to scream. The room the door led to was pitch black, except for a hanging lamp in the center that illuminated a small table. What was on that table nearly caused Sasuke to scream as well. Naruto. At the mention of Naruto's name, Sakura fell to her knees and began crying loudly. Hinata sat back up from her mess and started to hyperventilate, bits of sobs being heard in between her desperate gasps for air. It was nearly 30 seconds before Sasuke could will his legs to move. He walked slowly, as if in a trance, toward the table. This can't be right, he thought. It's got to be a nightmare. He stopped about a foot from his destination. His breath caught in his throat as he stood there, staring at the mess in front of him. The usually spiked, blonde hair was matted to his head with sweat and speckled with blood. The blue eyes were closed. The orange jacket and black t-shirt lay on the floor. The blood was absolutely everywhere. From his collarbone to his waistline, he had been cut open. His muscles in that area were all visible, owing to the fact that his skin on both sides of the cut had been peeled back like an open magazine. Finally, Sasuke's vision came to rest on his brother's right arm, and the mark of the Uchiha clan, smeared with blood. This was all it took for Sasuke to lose it. He dropped to the floor, threw back his head and screamed, and screamed, and screamed. Kyuubi laid on the floor of his cell in misery, watching the boy in front of him grow more and more weak. He gritted his teeth in anger. His container was dying and there was nothing he could do this time because Naruto had been laid open. He could heal holes easily, but this... He sighed for the 100th time and waited for the inevitable cold to claim him. Hey, stupid fox, Naruto said weakly. Kyuubi cracked open one eye and stared at the boy in irritation. What? I'm glad I have company at the end. Even if it's you, Naruto replied with a weak, yet wry smile. Same to you, brat, Kyuubi said as he closed his eye again. I just wish it wasn't like this, Naruto said sullenly as he managed to pull himself to a sitting position, resting his arms and head on his knees. Kyuubi groaned at his silence being interrupted again. What? If I had to die, I would have liked to have at least died in battle, not lying on some. He began as the room around him started to brighten. Kyuubi growled. He knew what was coming. Don't you dare, not again. In a flash the room was gone and replaced with the room with the table. Naruto struggled weakly against the two ninjas holding him. If I wasn't drugged you losers would be toast, he said as his legs went out from under him. Remove his jacket and shirt, said a familiar voice. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Orochimaru come out of the shadows. Kabuto wheeled in a tray of medical instruments. A snap of adrenaline ran through Naruto. No, no, he screamed as he temporarily broke free from the grasps of his captors. They recaptured him and pulled off the clothing as their leader had instructed, then forced him down on the table. A pity my unsealing jutsus didn't work. This method produces results so rarely, Orochimaru said with a sick smile on his face. Naruto struggled as much as he could in his condition. Orochimaru gave Kabuto a look. Kabuto nodded and prepared a syringe. New. Naruto screamed again as the needle was put into his right arm, just above the Uchiha symbol. Kabuto pushed the plunger and the liquid inside the syringe eased its way into Naruto's arm. A small trickle of blood crossed the Uchiha symbol. Naruto quickly began to feel his body going limp and numb. Tears leaked out from his eyes as Orochimaru picked up a scalpel. Siomen, he pleaded. At least knock me out, he said, fear evident in his voice. Kyuubi was growing more and more irritated as he watched the scene as it played out in front of him. He despised being sucked into Naruto's waking nightmares. Wake up you dumb brat. Coo. If I knock you out it won't be any fun, Orochimaru said coldly as he moved toward the young leaf ninja. Naruto's eyes seemed to go wider than humanly possible. Orochimaru brought down the scalpel and Naruto screamed. Flash! The room disappeared and was replaced by the cell and the alcove in front of it. Naruto was on the floor, breathing hard. Damn it, he growled. It's not bad enough I'm dying, but do I have to keep going through that again? He said angrily. It's because you keep dwelling on it. Kyuubi answered in frustration. Another scream echoed throughout the dungeon-like room. This was the last straw for the giant fox. I said to stop, he began. That wasn't me. Naruto snapped. He looked up at the ceiling. It sounded like Sakura. His eyes widened. Oh God, that means she's seen me. He gritted his teeth. He hated to hear Sakura in pain, especially if he was the cause of it. Silence followed for another 15 minutes, so when the next scream came, Kyuubi got so irritated that he dug gouges into the floor of his cell. The second scream was masculine. Now who is it? Naruto's eyes widened again. Sasuke. His screaming like that, over me. Then he remembered Sasuke making him his brother and the emotion of surprise left his thoughts. I'm so sorry Sakura, Sasuke. He began to cry. I want to come back for you, but I can't, he said as he burst into tears. That's Sasuke brat's chakra. It's right next to us, said Kyuubi with a hope in his voice that Naruto didn't understand. What? Naruto asked as his sobbing subsided. Tell me that friend of yours is as smart as you've said he is, Kyuubi asked with urgency. Yeah, Naruto replied, even though he didn't understand what was going on. All right then, Kyuubi said. He began to focus his energy on the gaping wound in his container's chest. A strange feeling suddenly overcame the grief-stricken Sasuke. For some reason he felt compelled to look at Naruto again. He stood, his eyes closed. When he finally got the courage to open his eyes he gasped. This is... He stumbled over the words in wild hope. Red chakra was leaking from the edges of the flaps of skin that made up Naruto's midsection. Is the Nine Tails trying to... He said as he reached a hand towards the glow. He desperately hoped he was right as he gingerly began to push the flaps back into place, resisting the urge to throw up. As soon as the second piece was in place, all the cut lines became blindingly bright for a moment and then began to sizzle. It's working. I think you might make it, kid, Kyuubi said as he began to breath heavily. Naruto looked at the fox in confusion. What? How? I let him know I was still here. His pushed your wounds together. Naruto's eyes lit up with hope. Sakura didn't know how long she'd been crying, but when she looked up she saw Sasuke doing something that, for some reason, made her blood boil. Sasuke, she roared, sounding very much unlike herself. She stood up and ran over to the table. What do you think you're doing? Sasuke's eyes went wide. Sakura, he said, stunned. He'd never heard Sakura so furious with him before. Sakura reached over and tried to pull Sasuke away from Naruto. Sakura, stop it. Sakura's eyes became desperately sad. Leave him alone. You can't do anything. He's already dead, she screamed, her voice cracking from the emotion. Sakura, Sasuke said. Sakura began to wail loudly. Sasuke grabbed her shoulders. Sakura. This stunned her into silence for a moment. Before she could start up again, he jabbed his finger in Naruto's direction. Look. Sakura turned her head to the side and looked down. No. Sasuke forcefully turned her around to face Naruto. Look. Sakura took a deep, sob-filled breath and opened her eyes. She gasped. Is he? She asked in disbelief. Sasuke nodded. Kyuubi's trying anyway. Now all we can do is wait. That was all it took for Sakura to run back towards the door. Hinata. Sasuke watched as Sakura excitedly told Hinata the news. What? Hinata yelled, which was very strange to hear from such a normally quiet girl. Both girls ran back to Naruto and Sasuke. As soon as Hinata saw the healing wounds, tears of joy rolled down her face. She bravely touched his chest, ignoring the burning sensation this brought. Do your best, Naruto-kun. Don't you dare die on me, idiot, Sasuke said with tension in his voice. Naruto, please, come back to us, Sakura pleaded. Inside his mind, Uzumaki Naruto was overcome with joy at hearing everyone's voices. Please, let this work, he thought to no one in particular. I want to live. Suddenly, Naruto fell to his hands and knees. "Hey!" he screamed, clutching his midriff. Now that he was coming back from the brink of death, he could feel the pain of his wound being sealed. "Hang on, brat," Kyuubi said, not out of concern for Naruto, but for his own existence. Finally, all was quiet. Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata watched Naruto and held their breaths, waiting for a miracle. No matter what he tried, he couldn't open his eyes. "Why?" he thought. "Why can't I wake up?" He turned to Kyuubi. "You said I was gonna make it," he said in anguish. Then he stopped and stared at the giant kitsune. Is he becoming transparent? "Hey, stupid fox, you okay?" Kyuubi was indeed less opaque than he'd been a moment ago, and he knew it. "Damn you, brat," he said through gritted teeth. "What did I do?" Naruto said to counter the insult that had been tossed his way. Kyuubi's breath became ragged. "You let yourself become a science experiment, that's what." Naruto was angry now. "I didn't let myself become anything. They drugged me, and why the hell does it matter to you anyway?" Kyuubi growled. It sounded strained. "Because I'm almost dead," he snapped. Naruto's eyes went wide. "What?" he said in disbelief. "There was too much damage. I didn't realize it. My soul is too weak to stay now." "Damn you," Kyuubi said with a small cough, which was a strange sound coming from such a large animal. Naruto became oddly quiet. "Why do I feel like part of me is dying?" he thought. "Maybe cause he's always been with me." "Thanks," was the only thing he could think of to say. Maybe part of me can stay." He rolled one large eye toward Naruto. "Hey, brat." "What?" Naruto said in irritation. "I'm gonna give you a going away present." "Present?" Naruto said suspiciously as he stood up and walked over to the Nine Tails. "Come closer." Naruto instantly stopped. "How stupid do you think I am? I'm not gonna let you take me with you." "Ha! Why would I want to listen to your nonsense for all eternity?" Kyuubi answered in mild amusement. "Now come here. I don't have much time left." Naruto took a deep breath and moved closer to the seal cage. The instant he got next to the bars, Kyuubi whipped out one of his claws and stuck it right through him. "Aha!" Naruto screamed, the pain so intense he nearly blacked out. Sakura was the first to notice it. His breathing," she said excitedly. Sasuke actually smiled a little more than his usual smirk. "Nice work, Dobi." Hinata lowered her head. Thank God," she said as she shed tears of relief. A moment later the pain subsided. Naruto collapsed to the floor. "I'd rather get cut 100 more times than go through that again," he thought. He looked at the cell. "What the hell did you do?" His words reached nothing but dead air. Kyuubi had vanished. "Why isn't he waking up?" Hinata asked with concern clouding her delicate features. "He went through a lot," Sakura replied. "It might be a few days," she said as she wiped some of the blood and sweat off of Naruto's forehead with a small towel from her side pouch. Sasuke was about to suggest they get out of there when a clear ripple of energy blasted outwards from Naruto's body, knocking them all away from the table with great force. Sasuke skidded to a stop roughly 6 feet away from where he had started. He looked back at the table. Everything seemed quiet again. Sakura came walking back to the table. She was holding her head. "What do you think that was, Sasuke-kun?" she asked. "Damn it! What the hell was that?" Inner Sakura raged. Sasuke squinted in confusion. "I don't know," he said quietly. "Let's get him out of here." He pushed Naruto up to a sitting position. "Sakura, you get the other side," he said as he put one of Naruto's arms around his shoulders. "Yeah," Sakura replied as she moved into position. As they came out of the front entrance, a very loud signal flare shot into the sky. It looked like it was only 200 meters away. "Shit, that's the warning signal," Sasuke remarked. "Hinata, you move ahead. We need your eyes." "NM," Hinata replied as she shot forward in the direction of Konoha. Sasuke and Sakura hurried as quickly as they could considering the circumstances. "I hope Kakashi-sensei is all right," Sakura said. "On," was Sasuke's only reply. "Hokage-sama," said Alif Jounin. Tsunade picked up her head from where she'd had it lying on the desk. "What?" she asked sleepily. The Jounin's eye twitched. I can't believe she was sleeping, he thought. They're coming back. Tsunade was instantly more alert. "Bring me to them," she said, leaping over the desk and scattering papers everywhere. Tsunade's heart was thundering in her chest as she leapt from rooftop to rooftop, following her subordinate. Please be alive. Please be alive, she thought, tension tight in her stomach. Suddenly the Jounin pointed to their left. There, Hokage-sama. Tsunade squinted. She could barely see them. They were just outside the gates, moving fast. Sasuke and Sakura were in front with Hinata bringing up the rear, making sure they hadn't been followed. She set her face in determination as she picked up speed, leaving her subordinate in the proverbial dust. Sakura smiled. There are the gates, Sasuke-kun, she said, just before someone landed right in front of them, causing them to literally have to dig their heels into the ground in order to stop in time. Tsunade-sama, she exclaimed in surprise. Tsunade was breathing hard. Is he all right? She said with worry. Sasuke spoke up. We think so, he replied as Hinata came to a gentle stop behind Sakura. Tsunade nodded. Give him to me. I'll take him to the hospital. You three, follow. I'll want your reports. Sasuke and Sakura nodded and handed over the unconscious Naruto. Tsunade took off in the direction of the hospital. As they went on, Sakura began to get a knot in her stomach. How are we going to explain what we saw? I don't even want to think about it, much less say it out loud. When they reached the hospital, a doctor was already waiting outside the entrance. Follow me, Godame-sama, he said as he made a small bow out of respect. Tsunade nodded and together they disappeared through the glass doors. As the doctor who had led them inside emerged from the double doors of the intensive care unit, Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura all stood. How is he? Hinata said softly. He's resting comfortably. Tsunade-sama is working on reducing the amount of scarring he'll have. It may take a while for him to wake up, but I think he'll be just fine, the doctor replied, smiling warmly. Can we see him? Sakura asked. Of course. Follow me, please, the doctor said as he began to walk. Sakura had seriously started to hate hospitals. Every time she was there, it was because someone she cared about was hurt and she was tired of it. Why does it always seem cold in here? She thought. The doctor stopped in front of a door. He's in here, he said. The door opened and Tsunade appeared. Thank you, Akito, Tsunade replied with a smile. You're welcome, Tsunade-sama. And with that he turned around and walked away. Sakura looked up at the fifth Hokage quizzically. You know him, Hokage-sama? Yes, he's a cousin of someone who was very dear to me, she said as she walked through the door. The kids wisely took that as a sign that they shouldn't ask about it anymore and simply followed the fifth. As they sat down in the chairs that were at Naruto's bedside, Tsunade spoke. Now, please tell me what happened. The three genin looked at each other. Both Hinata and Sakura looked down. Sasuke sighed. I guess I have to do it. We went inside the building and split up. While I was searching, I heard Sakura scream. I found her. Then I saw Naruto lying on a table, he began. Tsunade visibly stiffened. Her breath caught fast in her throat. Continue. He was cut open. All the skin on the front of his torso had been peeled back, Sasuke said quietly. Instantly, a fire entered Tsunade's eyes as she balled her hands into fists. That bastard! She yelled as she shattered a nearby chair with one punch. I'll gut him. This stunned even Sasuke into silence. I didn't know she cared so much about Naruto. Just then a nurse poked her nervous face through the doorway. I'm very sorry, Tsunade-sama, but I must ask you not to be so loud. Tsunade sighed with frustration. Of course, she said stiffly. The nurse flashed a quick, nervous smile before pulling her head out of the room and closing the door. Tsunade turned her attention to Sasuke once again. Continue, she said firmly. Sasuke cleared his throat. We thought he was dead, but I noticed Kyuubi's chakra trying to heal him. I pushed the skin back into place, he winced, and the wound closed. Then he trailed off, looking as though he were trying to decide how best to phrase what came next. What? The Godame asked even though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Sasuke looked at Sakura and Hinata. Sakura found her voice. Some kind of energy came from his body and we were all thrown back from the force of it. Tsunade frowned in thought. Chakra? No, at least, I don't think so. Chakra has color. This didn't, Sakura finished. Was Tsunade's only reply. Suddenly, her attention was drawn to the uchiha mark on Naruto's arm. Her eyes widened in recognition. Sasuke saw where Tsunade was looking and suddenly wished he could be somewhere else. I haven't seen an uchiha bonding seal in over 30 years, Tsunade said as she continued to stare at the mark in wonder. Sakura looked at the mark in confusion. What is it, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade smiled. I think that's something Sasuke should tell you, she said warmly. Sakura turned to Sasuke. Sasuke sighed. It marks him as my brother, he replied with an unreadable expression on his face. Sakura's eyes went wide as she stared at Sasuke, dumbfounded. A slight smile crossed Sasuke's eyes. HMPF. He looked at Naruto. Sunlight, coming through the window, fell on the blonde's face and wind ruffled his hair. My true brother. It was the third day since they had come home. Hinata sat on a small, soft armchair next to Naruto's bed. She stared at the boy's sleeping face. Please, Naruto-kun, wake up. Tsunade, who had been about to come into the room, instead smiled at the concerned look on the young Hyuga's face and quietly shut the door again. Hinata heard a small groan and looked up to see Naruto's face contorting as though he was starting to regain consciousness. She stood up quickly, banging her knee on the bedside table. Oh, she said weakly as she bent over to rub her injury. Hinata-chan. Hinata looked up. Naruto's eyes were open and he was staring at her, his face showing concern. Naruto-kun, she said in surprise. She then bolted out of the room, leaving behind a very confused blonde ninja. What the? He began as a doctor came into the room, followed by Hinata. I'm so glad to see you awake, Naruto-kun, he said with a smile. Naruto allowed himself a slight smile. That makes two of us. The doctor walked over to Naruto's bed and sat down in the chair Hinata had occupied earlier, while Hinata herself stood near the wall. I'm Dr. Tokiha. You may call me Akito since you are so close to Tsunade-sama, he said with a smile. He looked at his chart and cocked an eyebrow. You sure do heal fast. Naruto was instantly more alert. He sat up so quickly his head felt like it was spinning. What? But Kyuubi's gone. Why? Don't worry, Akito said with a warm smile. The Kyuubi doesn't bother me. Naruto's eyes went wide and he looked at Hinata in panic. Akito saw this and waved his hand dismissively. It's all right, Naruto-kun. She knows, he said with a reassuring tone. If possible, Naruto's eyes went even wider. How? She had to be told why Orochimaru wanted you, Akito said matter-of-factly. Naruto looked at Hinata with a small amount of fear. Suddenly he lurched. That means Sakura-chan knows too. Akito nodded. Naruto felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. He really hadn't wanted her to know. They had to know that they might have been facing Kyuubi if Orochimaru's seal transfer technique had backfired. Seal transfer. Naruto repeated in confusion. Yes, according to our intelligence network, he wanted to transfer Kyuubi to himself. Naruto gulped. Now please, hold still so I can examine you, Akito said as he put a blood pressure cuff around Naruto's arm. After a few more small tests, Akito stood up. I think you can leave tomorrow morning. Just make sure you rest today and you're all set. Thanks, Naruto replied. Akito left the room and Hinata retook her previous seat. Hinata-chan, Naruto said as he looked over at her. Why, yes. Thank you for not being afraid, he said in a slightly choked voice. Hinata's expression softened. Naruto-kun, I could never be afraid of you. Naruto looked up at Hinata. Tears had formed at the corners of his eyes, but he was smiling. He wiped his eyes. Hemed. So, have you been watching me at the hospital all this time? No. Sakura-san and Sasuke-kun have taken turns also. And Kakashi-sensei came to visit too. She said all this very fast with a slight blush on her cheeks. Kakashi-sensei, he's all right? Naruto questioned, smiling. Why, yes, Hinata replied. Naruto grinned. Awesome, he proclaimed. Hey, Hinata-chan. Yes. Hinata replied, her nerves calming a bit. She had found it a lot easier to talk to her long-time crush since the Chunin exam. Thanks for coming to get me. Hinata looked up in surprise. How did you know? I know it sounds crazy, but I could hear all of you while I was asleep. Oh, you're welcome. When When I heard you had been taken, I just had to go. Naruto smiled. He was quiet a moment, then spoke. So, how have you been? I haven't seen you since the Chunin exam. Much better, thank you. An Anbu healed me, Hinata replied. I'm glad. I was worried about you, Naruto said warmly. A slight wave of pink crossed Hinata's cheeks. Anyway, the doctor is going to tell Tsunade-sama that you're awake. Naruto sighed in frustration. I'm gonna take a walk around the halls, he said as he started to get up. You wanna come with me? No, Naruto-kun. Hinata sputtered. She put her hand on Naruto's. Naruto stopped and looked down. Hinata, as though she suddenly realized their hands were touching, yanked her hand back and tented her fingers. Please, don't get up. The doctor told you to rest, she said, staring at her slightly moving fingers. Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes slightly. Okay, he said with a pout as he sat back down. Hinata let out a short breath of a giggle. Naruto stopped pouting and stared at her for a moment. Hinata saw his stare and blushed. Hey, Hinata-chan. Why, yes, Naruto-kun. You should smile more often, he replied with a small smile of his own. Hinata looked at Naruto in surprise, the thundering of her heart blocking out all other sounds. She gulped. Kage, thank you. Naruto smiled, then yawned. You know what? I think I will go back to sleep for a bit. He laid down and rolled onto his side. Night, Hinata-chan. Sleep well, Hinata replied. She watched him until his breathing slowed to indicate a deep sleep, then closed her own eyes. Tsunade looked up as the door to her office opened. Kakashi strolled in and took a seat in front of the fifth's desk. Tsunade cocked an eyebrow. So, am I finally going to get my report? Kakashi had taken nearly a full 3 days to regain consciousness, visiting Naruto before he left the hospital. Kakashi Ahemed. Yes, Tsunade-sama. The Jounin straightened himself. As ordered, myself and the other 5 Jounin created a distraction to get Orochimaru and his underlings away from where we believed Naruto to be. After almost an hour, Orochimaru suddenly ran back toward the Genin group. I shot up the signal flare as we ran to head him off. The kids barely made it out before we got there. As you know by now, Yuki-kun didn't make it back, he said with regret. Yes, I know, Tsunade said gently. I'm sorry, Hatake. I know he was your friend. Yes. He sighed. At least it wasn't for nothing, Kakashi said. How is Naruto? Tsunade asked, trying not to sound too eager. He's still unconscious. Kakashi paused. Is it true? Was he really cut open? Tsunade closed her eyes in a pained look. NM. Kakashi's eyes narrowed dangerously and, although Tsunade couldn't see it, he also gritted his teeth in anger. Suddenly a Chunin with long, black-green hair burst through the door of the office. Tsunade-sama, she said loudly. He's awake, she said with a big grin. Tsunade smiled. Thank you, Nabiki. Nabiki smiled. Of course, Tsunade-sama. She was about to leave when she said, and, Tsunade-sama. Yes. Tsunade answered quizzically. Girls have been bringing him flowers, she said with a wry smile. She knew telling Tsunade this would make her happy, because she knew Tsunade cared for the boy a great deal. Tsunade smiled. Thank you again, Nabiki. Yes, Nabiki said with a quick bow, then vanished. Well, Hatake, Tsunade said as she rose from her chair. Let's go see that student of yours. Naruto yawned and opened his blue eyes, which opened even wider at the sight that met them. There were no less than 7 flower arrangements sitting in various spots on and around his nightstand. He pushed back the covers and looked at the cards. 1 from Hinata, 1 from Sakura and 5 from girls in his academy class he'd never talked to. Girls that had ignored him. What the? He thought. He looked up as the door to his room opened. Hinata was carting in yet another bouquet. Hinata peeked around the flowers she was carrying. Naruto-kun, she said with a smile. Naruto looked at Hinata in confusion. What's going on here? He said, glancing at the flowers behind him. A flicker of irritation crossed Hinata's face. Why does he have to be popular all of a sudden? I don't know. She held the flowers she had out to him. Here's another one. Naruto took the flowers and looked at the card. It was from Tsunade. He smiled and put them on the windowsill. He turned around and looked at the other flower bunches again. Why are girls sending me flowers? Maybe if you read the cards. Hinata offered. Naruto frowned thoughtfully and pulled the card out of the nearest vase. As he read it, his eyes went wide and a small smile crept up to his lips. In happy disbelief, he handed the card to Hinata and eagerly grabbed the next one. Hinata opened the card and silently read the words to herself. Dear Naruto-kun, I just wanted to say I'm glad you're alright and that I've kinda, liked you since I saw you fight in the main Chunin exam. I was thinking, maybe we could go on a date after you're better. That's all I wanted to say. Bye. Get well soon. Hayama, Momiji. Hinata's heart sank. If all those cards were like this one, then her chance to be with the boy she loved was now slim to none. She couldn't help it. Tears began to prick at her eyes. Naruto was about to happily hand the next card to Hinata when the look on her downcast face stopped him cold. Hinata-chan, are you okay? Hinata shook her head slowly. What's wrong? Naruto asked, now quite concerned. Hinata swallowed. It's nothing. She sucked in a hurt-sounding breath. I have to go home, she said as she turned to leave. Please tell me what's wrong. Did I do something? Naruto asked quietly. Hinata stopped and turned around. Tears were now streaming down her face. No, it's nothing you did. What then? Naruto asked, putting a comforting hand on her shoulder. At Naruto's touch, Hinata squeezed her eyes shut as if in pain. Please, it's private. Feeling torn between wanting to help his friend and respecting her wishes, Naruto relented. Okay, but if you wanna talk. Hinata nodded and left the room. Naruto sat down on his bed. He had lost interest in his cards. His thoughts were interrupted as he heard a knock on his door. He looked up to see Kakashi and Tsunade come in. Yo, Naruto, Kakashi said offhandedly. Naruto smiled a little. Hey, Kakashi-sensei. Hey, Granny Tsunade, he greeted them. Tsunade twitched a bit when she heard Naruto's nickname for her. How are you feeling, brat? She said jokingly as she placed an affectionate kiss on his forehead. Naruto blushed a bit. Fine. Tsunade made a low whistle. You have quite the fan club going here, she said with a wink. Naruto ducked his head a bit in embarrassment. Yeah, well, 2 of them are from friends, he said as he scratched the back of his head with a grin. Tsunade's face became a bit more serious. As much as I'd like it to be, this isn't only a social call, she said suddenly. The smile disappeared from Naruto's face. You want me to tell you what happened, huh? Yeah, Kakashi answered. I'm sorry, Naruto, but we have to know, he said, even though he wasn't looking forward to hearing it. I don't want to talk about it, Naruto said as he turned away. Don't want to talk about what? Came Sakura's voice from the other side of the room. Sasuke and Sakura were walking towards Naruto. Orochimaru, Naruto answered miserably. Sakura's bright smile evaporated. Oh, do you mind if we stay? Naruto shrugged. Suit yourself. Sakura and Sasuke sat on the edge of Naruto's bed. Tsunade sat in the armchair and Kakashi leaned against the wall nearest to the group. After what seemed like an eternity, Naruto spoke. His voice sounded hollow. He drugged me. What? Sakura asked. That's how he got me. I was out walking around near the gates. I found a scroll on the ground. When I opened it, gas came out. It worked so fast. I didn't even get the chance to yell for the guards. You idiot. How could you fall for something so obvious? Sasuke yelled suddenly. Sasuke-kun. Sakura said angrily. We almost lost him because he was stupid. Sasuke snapped back. That's enough. Tsunade commanded. Both genin were instantly quiet. It's okay, Sakura-chan. He's right. I didn't think, Naruto said. Everyone simply stared at Naruto, wide-eyed. This must really be hard for him, Sakura thought, if he's being this serious. Orochimaru's bodyguards took me back to the building you found me in. He tried tons of weird jutsus on me, for hours. He wouldn't let me eat or sleep. Said the seal would be weaker if I was tired. The day you found me. He paused. His heart pounded in his chest like a hammer. He took me into that room. He thought the seal might weaken if he cut it, he said as he tightly gripped the bedsheets. He put me on the table and tears began to make soft sounds as they landed on the bed. He didn't even knock me out. He said as his voice cracked, sobs racking his shaking body. Everyone's eyes went wide with shock. Kakashi punched the wall, making a fairly large hole. Sasuke just sat where he was, his eyes filled with disbelief. No! He was awake. Sakura thought in horror. Her right hand went to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Oh God, oh Naruto, she said as she pulled him into a hug. Naruto simply sank into her arms, his crying getting ever louder as he began to rock back and forth. Sasuke wanted to comfort his brother, but he was at a loss as to how. He wasn't the hugging type, and since Sakura seemed to be handling it well, he stayed where he was, wishing he knew what to say. Tsunade moved next to Naruto and Sakura and sat down. She moved her hand in small circular motions on Naruto's back. Tears rolled down her face as she spoke. It's all right. You're safe now. Her voice hardened. I swear, Orochimaru will pay for this. Later that day, Tsunade checked Naruto out of the hospital and escorted him home. She stayed with him the entire day. When he announced he wanted to go to bed, she told him she would keep watch for the night. Once he was asleep, she quietly shut the door to his bedroom. She and Kakashi moved to Naruto's couch and sat down. She nodded to herself. I've decided, Hatake. Decided what, Hokage-sama? I'm going to ask Naruto to move in with Shizune and myself. I'm going to adopt him, she said with determination. Kakashi cocked an eyebrow in surprise. What brought this on? I want him where I can make sure he's safe. And also, she said as she glanced around Naruto's apartment, I can't stand to see him living alone. He deserves better, she said with a frown. Kakashi smiled with his eyes. I'm sure you'll make a wonderful mother for him. I had actually considered doing the same thing at one point, but I just know I'd make a terrible father, he said as he chuckled. Tsunade laughed just as a wave of energy blasted through the room, knocking them both over. As soon as she could move, she made a beeline for Naruto's room. Come on, Hatake. This must be what Sakura was talking about. Kakashi ran after her and another energy wave hit them. He was knocked to the floor, but Tsunade managed to push against it. Shielding her eyes from the force of the energy with her arms, she moved forward. All of Konoha was in chaos. People who had run outside to see what was going on were now trying to get back inside to get away from the energy waves. Sakura! Sasuke yelled as he fell into step next to her. They were running at top speed toward Naruto's apartment. Sakura's face was hard with determination. Hurry, Sasuke-kun. It's Naruto. I know. Sasuke replied, just as he noticed another wave headed for them. Sakura, hold on, he said as locked wrists with her. From top speed, they were reduced to barely jogging as they fought to stay on their feet. It's getting stronger as we get closer, Sakura thought as the wave passed and they picked up speed again. She looked behind her and noticed several Jounins and a few Anbu following them. Sasuke noticed Sakura looking backward and did the same. They probably know where we're headed, he said as they continued toward their destination. Tsunade opened Naruto's door and her face was instantly etched in amazement. Shockwave after shockwave of energy made it so she had to grip the door frame so tightly that she was making indents in the wood. Naruto's body was surrounded by a yellow light. Is that chakra? She thought. Suddenly Naruto's eyes snapped open as he let out a blood-curdling scream. Naruto! She yelled as she watched his body writhe in agony. Ah! Naruto screamed again. This pain. It's just like when Kyuubi put his claw through me. Suddenly, everything stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Naruto went limp. He was covered with sweat and breathing hard. Tsunade cautiously approached the bed. Naruto, she said as she sat down next to him. She reached down and grabbed his hand. Gee, Granny Tsunade. Naruto began as he squeezed her hand. Sleep now, Tsunade said as she ran her hand over his forehead and damp hair. Something must be wrong with Kyuubi. I'll talk to the village elders after I leave here. It's not Kyuubi, Naruto said weakly. What? How do you know? Tsunade asked, confused. He's dead. What? He used up too much energy when he healed me. He's gone. Then, what in the seven hells? Tsunade remarked. He said he gave me a going away present, Naruto answered in between breaths. Going away present? Tsunade's eyes went wide. Could that damn fox have She looked backwards at the door as an extremely disheveled Kakashi wandered in. "Hatake, go get Hyuga, Hinata. I need her eyes," she said as a crashing sound came from the front door. Tsunade and Kakashi bolted towards the door to find Sasuke, Sakura, and several of the higher-ranked ninjas standing there, looking ready for battle. Tsunade stepped forward. "It's all right now. You may go back to your posts." "What was that, Tsunade-sama?" asked Nabiki as Kakashi disappeared to get Hinata. "It was Naruto. I will explain everything in the morning. For now, please just go tell everyone that things are under control," Tsunade said in a no-nonsense tone of voice. Everyone except Sasuke and Sakura made an affirmative noise, bowed and disappeared. Tsunade waved the genin through. "Come on you two. He's resting," she said as she led the way. Sakura and Sasuke stood in front of Naruto's bed. He had fallen asleep. "What happened, Tsunade-sama?" Sasuke asked. "Truthfully, I have a theory, but I need Hinata before I can confirm it. The one thing I do know for sure is that Kyuubi is dead." "Dead?" Sakura repeated in surprise. Naruto told me himself. Kyuubi used too much power trying to heal him," Tsunade explained. Kakashi and Hinata came through the door just then. "We're here," Kakashi said. "That was fast," Tsunade remarked. "She was already on her way here," Kakashi answered. "Good. Hinata-chan, I want you to use your Byakugan to look inside Naruto," Tsunade said. Hinata's eyes went wide and she blushed. "See? Couldn't you ask Neji Nii-san?" "No," Tsunade answered steadily. Neji and his team are on a mission right now." But Hinata began. "I need this taken care of now, Hinata," Tsunade said gently. Hinata nodded and gulped. "I won't be seeing anything. It's just his chakra," she thought to calm herself. "Byakugan." Veins became more defined around her eyes as she began her examination. After a moment she pulled back, confusion spread across her face. "Well," Tsunade prodded. "I don't understand, Hokage-sama." His chakra, it's yellow," Hinata replied. "I thought so," Tsunade said as she stood up. She quickly recapped to Kakashi about Kyuubi's fate. After that she said, "Naruto said Kyuubi gave him a gift. I had my suspicions, but I needed the eyes of a Hyuga. The only thing, other than having a demon sealed inside him, that could have changed his chakra color like this is an infusion of chakra from another person, a dying person." Kakashi's face instantly showed an expression of shock and understanding. "So you're saying?" Tsunade nodded. "Yes, Kyuubi gave Naruto his chakra." Naruto opened his eyes the next morning to find Tsunade sleeping, sitting up, next to his bed. He smiled. He stood up and tapped the fifth Hokage on the shoulder. "Hey, Granny Tsunade." Tsunade opened her eyes. "Morning, kiddo. How are you feeling?" she asked as she stretched her arms above her head. "Better." He paused for a moment. "Hey, Granny." Tsunade twitched. "Naruto, would you please stop calling me that?" she said in exasperation. Naruto simply laughed and scratched the back of his head in an impish manner. Tsunade sighed in defeat. "What did you want to ask me?" she said as she got up and worked the kinks out of her joints. Naruto's face became more serious. "What's happening to me?" Tsunade looked thoughtful. "Come sit down," she said as she walked toward the couch. Naruto followed and took a seat across from Tsunade on his slightly beat-up, puffy armchair. "What you told me about Kyuubi last night got me thinking. So, after you fell asleep I had Hinata take a look at your chakra." For reasons he was unsure of, this made Naruto uncomfortable. He didn't want anyone looking at his insides, much less a girl. "Your chakra has changed, Naruto," Tsunade said as leaned forward. She interlaced her fingers and rested her chin on them. "Changed? It's now yellow. And the reason for that is that the gift Kyuubi gave you was his chakra. And what happened last night was the result of the two chakras merging." Naruto's eyes went wide. "Will it happen again?" he asked with a bit of fear in his voice. "I don't think so. I think last night was the completion of the process," Tsunade answered reassuringly. Naruto visibly relaxed. "Thank God," he thought. Suddenly, understanding dawned on the blonde's face. Does that mean," a smile began to work its way across his face, "that I'll have that power all the time now?" Tsunade nodded with a smile. Yes. Naruto jumped up from the armchair and punched the air. Yes. Tsunade blinked, startled for a moment, then laughed. Yes, yes, wah-ha, he whooped loudly, jumping over and over again. Tsunade took a break from her laughter and stood up. Naruto, she said as she placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Naruto, calm down. There's still more we have to discuss, she said with a warm smile. Naruto resumed his former seating arrangement, still grinning like a Cheshire cat. Tsunade hemmed. Now, this also means that you need to do some heavy training for a few weeks, Naruto happily nodded. Under my supervision. At Naruto's sudden, killjoy frown she added, so that we know what to expect with your new chakra. I've controlled it just fine before, Naruto grumbled, his arms folded across his chest. Using someone else's chakra while they are still alive to help you control it and having their chakra merged with your own are two entirely different things, Naruto, Tsunade said firmly. All right, Naruto said reluctantly. And during this training period you will be staying at my estate, Tsunade added. What? Naruto yelled incredulously. I thought you might react that way. But it's an order as your superior, so go and pack your things, Tsunade replied in an authoritative tone. Naruto made a low, irritated growl as he stood to go to his room. After a few very noisy minutes, mostly due to the fact that the room was an absolute disaster area after the events of the previous evening, he reappeared with an insanely full backpack. Ready, he grumbled under his breath. Look at it this way, Tsunade said as they headed for the door. You get a chance to see how a Hokage lives, she said with a wink. Naruto brightened a bit and the two walked out the door into the warm, morning sunshine. Naruto just stood there, his mouth hanging open. He could have easily been mistaken for a statue as he gaped at the massive building that was Tsunade's home. Tsunade watched Naruto with a bemused smile. If he likes this, wait till he sees the indoor hot spring, she thought to herself. Truthfully, she could have just gone with him to the training grounds every day. He didn't have to live with her. She was hoping that being at her home for a few weeks might make him more susceptible to the idea of staying there permanently. Naruto, Tsunade called. Naruto. Naruto shook his head rapidly and looked at the fifth. Let's go, she said as she headed for the front entrance. Naruto hiked up his backpack and followed her. They walked through the gardens that covered a large portion of the front yard. A few higher-level ninjas, who were walking around carrying various reports, stopped for a moment to greet Tsunade. She said hello and took a look at some papers they wanted her to sign. Naruto just stood there, not saying anything. He was naturally a bit cautious of the Konoha adults at first, always suspicious of their inner thoughts. Hello, Naruto, said a female Chunin brightly, while awaiting her turn to talk to Tsunade. Naruto looked at the girl speaking to him. He decided she seemed genuinely nice. Hi, he said with a smile. I'm Nabiki. Nice to finally meet you. What do you mean? Tsunade-sama's told me so much about you that I feel like I know you already, Nabiki said with a grin. Naruto smiled. He loved the fact that Tsunade seemed to care about him like family. He used to be able to count the number of people who cared about him on one finger, namely Iruka-sensei, but now they just seemed to keep on coming. Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, Hinata, Shizune, Jiraya, Lee, so many people. They cared for him, accepted him. He had never imagined before a year and a half ago that it was possible. I practically live here, so you'll be seeing me a lot, Nabiki said as the Jounin who had been speaking to Tsunade left. Oh, my turn. I'll talk to you later, she said with a smile. Just then Shizune came walking down the stone path. Ah, Shizune, Tsunade greeted. It'll be a few minutes before I'm done here. Would you mind showing Naruto to his room? Shizune bowed warmly. Of course, Tsunade-sama. She turned to Naruto. Follow me please, she requested with a smile. As Naruto walked through the large front entrance of the house, he couldn't help but think, I can't wait till this is mine. Shizune led Naruto through the main foyer, down a long hallway lined with doors and up a flight of stairs, finally ending up at a door that had the kanji for Naruto on it. The foxy ninja was confused. Hey, Shizune-san. Yes, Naruto. Shizune replied as she put her hand on the doorknob. Why's my name on the door? I'm only staying for 2 weeks, Naruto questioned. Shizune froze for a second. I have to come up with an excuse, fast, she thought. She smiled brightly. Tsunade-sama just wanted you to feel at home. Naruto smiled and followed Shinzune as she walked inside the room. For the second time that day, he lost his ability to do anything but stare. The room was at least 20 by 25 feet in diameter with a 9-foot ceiling. There was a bed twice the size of his at the end of the room to his left. The sheets and pillowcases were a burnt orange color, just a little darker than his jacket. The bedspread was dark blue with a yellow Konoha symbol in the center. An area rug that matched the bedspread lay in the center of the room. A small stereo was on the far right wall, next to the doors for an enormous walk-in closet. There was also a TV with a video game system near the stereo. A phone and an alarm clock sat on a cedar nightstand next to the bed. A large dresser was nestled in the space between the two windows and plain, square mirror hung above that. Naruto blinked away his trance-like state, walked further into the room and set his bag down on the bed. "Wow," he said softly. Shizune smiled. "I'm glad you like it." Naruto snapped to life. "Like it?" He ran over to the stereo and pointed at it. "I have a stereo. And a Playtendo," he finished as he jabbed a finger in the direction of the game system. He then turned around, ran in the other direction, executed an aerial flip and landed perfectly in the middle of the bed. "And the best freaking bed ever." Shizune laughed. "I'll leave you to get settled," she said, still giggling in amusement. She walked to the door and opened it. She turned her head back to Naruto, who was now sprawled on the bed, looking, for all the world, like roadkill. "If you need anything, just pick up the phone, dial 564 and I'll be right up." Naruto nodded. "Thanks, Shizune-san." Shizune smiled. "My pleasure," she replied. "I'll see you later," she said as she walked out the door. "Bye," Naruto replied. As soon as the door was shut, he closed his eyes in comfort. "I could get used to this," he thought with a smile. Sakura began to run toward Naruto in slow motion. "Naruto-kun." "Sakura-chan," he yelled back with his arms stretched out for the impending romantic hug. When Sakura got to him though, instead of hugging him, she began poking him in the arm. Naruto, wake up," Sakura said. The scene blurred, then Shizune's face focused into view. "Naruto, we're going to be late." Shizune-san," Naruto said as he sat up and rubbed his eyes. He frowned. "You ruined a great dream," he grumbled. "If it involved that Sakura girl, I don't want to know," Shizune said with a wave of her hand. Naruto did a double take. "How'd you know?" Shizune giggled a bit. "You talk in your sleep." Naruto turned tomato red, suddenly wishing the earth would open up and swallow him. "Anyway, you need to get up. Tsunade wants us in the practice field in 15 minutes, Shinzune remarked, attempting to get back to her reason for waking up the blonde ninja. Naruto groaned and looked at the clock. 6:15 in the morning. Damn. She's as bad as Kakashi-sensei, he thought groggily. He rolled out of bed and shuffled over to his closet. Shizune, seemingly satisfied that she wouldn't have to wake him up again, walked back to the door. "I'll be waiting for you by the front gate," she announced. Naruto simply nodded and pulled out his usual outfit. "Good morning, Naruto," Tsunade said as she saw he and Shizune coming onto the field. "Morning, Granny," Naruto said with a yawn. "Twitch, ahem." She waved a hand around in a circular motion. "Welcome to my personal training ground." Once Naruto's eyes adjusted to the bright sunlight that had assaulted them after leaving the protective shade of the trees, he grinned at his surroundings. Now this is kick-ass. The field had to have been at least a good 3 acres. A nasty-looking obstacle course took up nearly a third of it. In the middle was a small lake for practicing water-related jutsus, which also had jump poles in a small section of one end. There were various throwing targets and dummies scattered around the third of the field closest to him. A tiny wooded area to his right had a sign up that read, "Trap Evasion Course. Enter at own risk." "Okay, first thing we are going to do," Tsunade began. "The obstacle course," Naruto interrupted, practically drooling at the sight of it. Tsunade ahemed loudly. "First thing we are going to do is have you mold some chakra." Naruto looked absolutely crestfallen. "Why?" he complained. Tsunade simply cocked an eyebrow at him. Naruto sighed and was about to do as asked, when he got an idea. "She wants me to mold chakra, eh? I'll show her some chakra," he thought with a mischievous grin. He put his hands into his favorite seal. Tsunade's eyes went wide. "Naruto, wait. Koge Bushin no Jutsu." Instantly, the entire first acre of the field was filled with Narutos, all pushing and scrambling to get out from under one another. This included the trap evasion course, which set off every single trap, all at once. "Get down!" Tsunade shouted as a hail of poison-tipped spikes shot out of the woods, barely missing everyone and taking out most of the replications in the process. After the danger was past, she stood and glared at her temporary student. Naruto desperately wanted to be somewhere else. He began. "That is why," Tsunade growled as she stood to her full height. She took a deep breath to regain her composure. "Now, just mold some chakra," she said in a mildly dangerous tone. Naruto gulped. Yeah." Making a basic molding seal, he pushed out just enough chakra to give himself a yellow glow. Tsunade nodded in approval. "All right, now a little more. Keep going until you feel yourself losing control, then stop," the fifth Hokage instructed. She then turned to Shizune. "Shizune, you may want to step back a bit." The memory of what had happened with the Koge Bunshin still fresh in her mind, Shizune didn't hesitate to move back by a good 50 feet. Naruto's glow had taken on the likeness of a bonfire as it continued to grow in size. Keep control, he chanted in his mind. Tsunade watched with a thoughtful gaze as the chakra aura towered over its owner by nearly 6 feet. "I think 2 weeks may not be enough," she thought warily. Suddenly, the chakra flattened down to the ground, shooting sideways as a ring of energy, pushing rocks and dirt toward Tsunade and Shizune with frightening speed. Tsunade managed to jump to a branch in the tree next to her, but Shizune was pummeled to the ground just before a fist-sized rock hit her in the head. "Shizune!" Tsunade screamed. Tsunade immediately jumped down to her friend's side, her eyes wild with fear. "Shit!" Naruto yelled as he ran over to the two women, regret and fear flooding his features. "Shizune-san!" he yelled as he skidded to a halt next to them. He watched Tsunade treat her friend, a lump rising in his throat. "Is she gonna be all right?" he asked in a choked voice as tears filled his eyes. No answer. "Granny Tsunade!" he yelled. Tsunade sighed with relief. "Yes, amazingly, it's just a concussion and some mild lacerations." "Tsunade-sama, Naruto began. Tsunade held up a hand. "We'll talk later. Right now I want to get her to my infirmary," she said as she cradled Shizune in her arms and stood to leave. Naruto nodded and followed the Hokage back through the trees. A doctor stood at the end of Shizune's bed with a clipboard. "I have all the information I need. I'll take care of her." She looked in the direction of an open door. "You go take care of him," she said, referring to the boy slumped on the bench in the hallway. Tsunade made a slight half-smile, half-frown, then went to see Naruto. "She'll be all right," she said as she sat down next to him. "Yeah," Naruto replied with a monotone voice. "Naruto, look at me," she said as she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Naruto looked up, but his expression was empty. It hurt to see his usual, carefree grin replaced by such a ghastly hollowness, but she smiled reassuringly anyway. "It was an accident. I know exactly what you're thinking and you're wrong. I'm not going to stop caring about you over this. And I know Shizune will tell you the same when she wakes up." A small amount of life came back to the young boy's eyes. "Really?" A warm smile found its way to the Hokage's face. "Yes." She put 2 fingers under Naruto's necklace, lifting the stone up a little. "I have considered you family ever since I gave you this necklace, and I never abandoned family because of an honest mistake." Naruto wiped away the tears that had started to form and smiled. "Thank you, old lady Tsunade," he said as he gave her a big hug. The doctor came out of Shizune's room. "She's awake." She turned to Naruto. "She wants to talk to you," she said with a smile. Looking a little nervous, Naruto stood and followed the doctor inside the room. "Sure, Shizune-san." "Naruto, I'm okay," Shizune said with a weak smile. "I'm sorry." Naruto began. "Naruto, it's all right. You didn't mean it." Shizune winced as her headache spiked a bit. She put her hand to her forehead. "Although, I hope you don't mind if I don't go to your next training session," she said with a small laugh. Naruto allowed himself a slight chuckle as he wiped away some fresh tears. He sniffed. "No problem." Shizune yawned. "I think I'm going to take a nap." Tsunade smiled and ruffled her friend's hair. "Glad you're okay. Sleep tight." Shizune looked slightly annoyed. "Tsunade-sama," she scolded. I'm too old for that kind of treatment. Tsunade simply chuckled and waved goodbye as she walked away. Bye, Shinzun-san, Naruto said as he fell in step behind the fifth. Shizune just smiled. Good luck, she thought. An hour after leaving Shizune's room, Naruto and Tsunade stood in the training field once again. Whenever you're ready, Tsunade said as she climbed into the tree next to her so she could watch from a safer vantage point. Naruto nodded. Yeah. The chakra glowed around him again. It reached the same height as before, only this time it stayed stable for a little longer before Naruto stopped. A very small pulse escaped his body, but nothing Tsunade needed to worry about. Tsunade smiled. Much better, again. Sakura sat on the front steps of her home. She was lost in thought. Sasuke had warmed up to her considerably since Naruto brought him back to the leaf, but he still wouldn't respond to her advances. What if he never accepts me? She thought in despair. She put her head in her arms in sadness. Sakura-san, said a familiar male voice. Sakura looked up to see Rock Lee looking down at her with a concerned face. Hi, Lee-kun. Are you okay? Nothing you can help with, Sakura said as she wiped away the tears she hadn't realized were there. Lee frowned. He knew exactly what bothering her. Damn you, Sasuke. Why must you make my goddess cry? He suddenly felt the need to do at least something. He put a firm, yet loving, hand on Sakura's shoulder. Sakura-san, wait here. I'll be right back, he said as he disappeared. Sakura stared at the spot he had previously occupied in confusion. What the? Lee jumped from rooftop to rooftop, looking for his quarry. Even if this hurts me, I must help her, he thought with determination. Sasuke kicked the tree for the 50th time. Each time his inspiration for the kick alternated between Orochimaru and Itachi's faces. The tree was beginning to groan under the strain as the base became thinner and thinner with each kick. Suddenly, there was a green blur and his kick was stopped in mid-air. Acha, Sasuke. I must speak with you, Lee said with a glare as he dropped Sasuke's foot. Sasuke glared back. Not because Lee was glaring, but because his training was interrupted. What is it, Rock? I don't have time for this. It's about Sakura-san. Sasuke sighed and lowered his head. Fine, talk. Do you know she loves you? Lee asked. Of course I do, and she told me as much before I left, Sasuke said as he sat down with his back against the tree. Why do you push her away then? Do you understand how lucky you are to have such a wonderful girl want you? Lee lowered his eyes. I only wish I was that lucky, he said sadly. Sasuke sighed in frustration. You want the truth. I don't want anyone right now. Until I kill Itachi, a relationship just wouldn't be worth it, because I don't care if I die fighting him. And besides that, I could never see her that way. She's just a good friend. But if I tell her that, it will kill her. She needs to know the truth, Lee said firmly. Sasuke shook his head. I think right now it's best if she thinks she still has a chance with me, until she finds someone else. It's less painful that way. So, you don't mind if I pursue her then? Lee asked carefully. Sasuke smirked ruefully. Do as you like. A bush behind the two boys rustled. Just as they looked behind them, a splash of pink disappeared through the trees. They looked at each other. Sakura, they said in unison before running off after her. Sakura. Sasuke called. Sakura-san, stop. Lee yelled. Damn it. She's already got 4-second head start. Which way did she go? He thought as he turned his head in different directions, looking for her. Sakura ignored the stinging of the whip-like branches as they made red marks across her face. She couldn't think. She just had to get away. Sakura-san, please. Lee yelled with desperation while fumbled with his leg warmers as he ran, trying to get them off so he could remove his weights. Sakura could hear nothing but the pounding of the blood in her veins. Stupid. I'm so stupid, she screamed inside her mind. Lee got sick of wasting time. He took out his kunai and sliced off both his leg warmers and his weights, cutting his bodysuit and scratching his skin in the process. Sasuke had to shield his eyes from the dirt and debris that Lee kicked up as he ran at top speed. Good luck, Lee, Sasuke thought as he halted his pursuit. Sakura's head start had only delayed the inevitable. Lee saw her to his right. There, he thought. He caught up to her and grabbed her wrist. Let me go. Sakura screamed at the black-haired ninja. Sakura, please, calm down. Lee begged as he grabbed the other wrist to keep her from flailing her arms. "Leave me alone," the pink-haired kunoichi raged. "Please," Lee said as he lowered his gaze. "I don't want you to hurt yourself." Sakura stopped struggling immediately. "Lee-kun, I would never hurt myself," Sakura said firmly. Lee sighed in relief and released Sakura's wrists. "Thank goodness. I'm glad you care about me so much, but I just want to be alone right now," Sakura said in a choked voice. Lee blew out a frustrated puff of air from his nose. "All right, but if you need someone to talk to." Sakura nodded and Lee left. "Thank you, Lee-kun." The last bit of chakra dissipated, this time leaving no shockwave. Tsunade jumped down from her perch in the tree. "Excellent, Naruto," she said, clapping her hands in approval. Naruto's face broke out into a foxy grin. "Thanks, Granny Tsunade." Tsunade ignored the jibe at her age. She had gotten used to it in the week Naruto had been there, and she had noticed that he said it less often now that it didn't bother her as much. "I think you're finally ready to start on the obstacle course," she said with an approving smile. Naruto's eyes instantly lit up. He looked positively insane with glee. "Really? Really?" Tsunade replied. Naruto clenched both his fists in front of his face in excitement. "Yes," he said with a grin. Tsunade's face became serious. "Don't get carried away. This course was not designed for genin. If you don't take it seriously, you will wind up back in the hospital." Naruto grimaced, but his foxy grin returned quickly. "Don't worry about me, Granny. I can handle it," he said with confidence. Tsunade folded her arms and smiled. "We'll see." She walked over to the course. Naruto followed, barely able to stop himself from running ahead. She stopped in front of a wooden platform raised 10 feet off the ground. "This is the starting point." She barely got out before Naruto jumped up onto the platform. She hemmed. "Please pay attention, Naruto." Naruto nodded fervently as his eyes darted all about, taking in the different aspects of the course. "Just tell me when I can start." Tsunade rolled her eyes and shook her head. "All right. First we have your basic zipline," she said, waving a hand toward the long, inclined rope in front of her student. Naruto looked dejected. "A zipline? I used those in the academy." Tsunade smiled. "Yes, but did the ziplines in the academy do this?" she said as she pulled a lever in front of her. Suddenly, the ground under the zipline came alive with extremely wide logs moving in a piston-like fashion, threatening to pound the life out of whoever tried to pass them. Naruto grinned. "Now that's more like it," he said as he cracked his knuckles. "Now, I'm not going to show you everything on the course in advance, so you will need to be suspicious of everything. Don't let your guard down, even if you think the course is over," Tsunade said warningly. "I got it," Naruto said with a nod. Tsunade raised her arm. "Ready, begin," she said as she brought her arm down in a cutting motion. Naruto took a running leap and grabbed onto the zipline's handle. Tsunade pulled the lever and the logs began to jut upwards. As he was moving, he realized, to his horror, that the logs didn't stop at a low enough height to allow him to pull his body over them. A log came up under him and the force of it shot him into the air like an undignified sack of potatoes. Tsunade rushed under the falling boy and caught him. She set him down. "Are you all right?" she asked. "All right." Naruto yelled indignantly. "What the hell is that?" he said as he pointed toward the zipline. Tsunade cocked an amused eyebrow. "A zipline?" Naruto was extremely irritated. "There's no way in hell to get past those things," he raged. "You have to find a way. Be creative," Tsunade said, ignoring Naruto's rant. Naruto made an indignant growl. She grinned. "Are you going to give up?" "Hell no," Naruto said confidently. Tsunade smiled. "All right then." She pointed to a picnic table 23 feet away that had a book laying on it. "I'll be over here if you need me," she said as she walked to the table. As soon as Tsunade's back was turned, Naruto's grin disappeared and he glared at his newfound foe. "All right," he said as he jumped up on the platform. He stared at the zipline for a moment. "Damn it. She's just as sadistic as Orochimaru," he thought in irritation. He jumped up and started down the zipline, only to come to the same end as before. "Damn it," he yelled in frustration and pain. As Tsunade read her book, a maid brought her a glass of juice. She heard Naruto cursing the zipline and laughed. She then noticed the glass that had been set down in front of her and frowned. Yamiko, she said to the maid. I asked for sake. Yamiko bowed. I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama. Shizune-san told me bring you juice instead. Tsunade tensed in annoyance. She curled her right hand into a fist. That interfering little. Yamiko knew where this was going. Excuse me, Tsunade-sama. I have other duties to attend to, she said as she bowed and hurried away. Naruto tried dodging to the side, but the logs were so big around that it was useless. Finally, he sat on the platform, gasping for breath. Damn it, how the hell do I? Suddenly, Naruto stood up. He stared at the zipline for a second more, then nodded in affirmation. He brought his hands together into a chakra molding seal. His hands began to glow. He looked at them and smiled. All right. Naruto jumped onto the zipline. As the dizzying speed brought him close to the first log, he used the chakra to stop the handle's movement. Once the log went down, he began moving again. He continued this all the way down the line until he jumped triumphantly onto the end platform. He began jumping up and down, punching the air. Woo! Waiha! Tsunade heard Naruto's yelling and looked up. As soon as she saw him jumping around on the platform, she grinned. She knew exactly how he had beat it. She stood and walked over to the hyperactive genin. I knew you could do it, brat, she said with a grin as she reached him. Naruto flipped off the platform and landed perfectly in front of the fifth. What's next? He said excitedly. Tsunade grimaced. Home, she said with a yawn. Naruto looked completely deflated. But, Naruto, you passed a pretty tough chakra control test. I think that's enough for today. Besides, she looked to the sky. It's getting too dark to see what you're doing. She put a hand on the boy's shoulder. I'm proud of you, Naruto. Naruto smiled widely. Thanks, Granny. When are you going to stop calling me that? Tsunade asked with a frown. Naruto simply grinned evilly at Tsunade. She sighed and began to walk toward the house. Naruto followed. As they walked, Naruto looked back at the training field. I can't wait till tomorrow. When Naruto opened his eyes, for the third time, the first thing he noticed was that it was still dark outside. He grumbled to himself. Damn it, I can't get back to sleep, he thought in frustration. Tsunade had made him go to bed early so they could train before she went to work. Why the hell isn't she up yet? He thought irritably. Naruto got up, threw on his usual outfit and trudged out the door to find Tsunade's room. He figured she would be on the top floor. As far as security went, it made the most sense. 3 flights of stairs later, he found himself at the end of a hallway that had 3 doors. 2 were along the sides. The third was at the end. That's gotta be it, he thought. As Naruto began to walk down the hall, he started to get the feeling he was being watched. A few spots on the walls became the focus of his attention. Guards hidden in the walls. I just hope they know I'm a guest and not an enemy. Almost as if they heard his thoughts, camouflage sheets made to match the walls of the hallway dropped from the bodies of 3 jounin, including a certain spiky-haired sensei. Yo, Naruto, Kakashi said with a smile in his eyes. Naruto smiled. Hey, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi walked over to his former student. Naruto, if you're thinking of waking up the 5th, then you need to go back downstairs. She'll kill you, he said nonchalantly. Naruto turned to Kakashi with a defiant gleam in his eye. She told me to be up this early and she's still in bed, he said loudly. And besides, he continued just as loudly, she doesn't scare me. The guards all simultaneously sucked in a breath as their eyes widened. As they took a step back, Naruto slowly turned around to see Tsunade standing behind him, hair bedraggled, cracking her knuckles. Naruto, Tsunade said in a low voice. What the hell do you think you're doing? Naruto sucked in a breath through his teeth and backed up a few steps. Tsunade put on a dangerously fake sweet smile. You know it's 4 in the morning, right? A vein popped on Naruto's forehead. You made me go to bed at 9 o'clock, because you wanted me to train early before you went to work. Tsunade's expression quickly changed to one of confusion. She put a finger sideways to her mouth as though she were trying to recall her words. I did, she said with a yawn. Naruto's expression instantly became incredulous. You don't remember? Tsunade was not fazed in the slightest. She scratched her right arm absent-mindedly. No, she said as she yawned again. Just go back to bed, she said as she turned to go back to her room. Go back to bed? How the hell do you expect me to sleep? Count sheep, Tsunade replied as she walked into her room and shut the door. Naruto stood there, seething for a moment before turning around and trudging down the stairs. When he got to the bottom, he looked in the direction of the front door. Fine then, I'll train by myself, he thought. He left the house and was swallowed up by the darkness of the moonless night. Naruto stood on the platform for the zipline. He took a deep breath and stared at it for a moment. If the first obstacle had been so hard, what was the rest of it like? He knew it was dangerous to be at the course by himself, but he was so angry that he didn't care. He took a running jump and leapt for the zipline handle. Tsunade groaned and sat up. Damn brat, she thought in irritation. Now I can't sleep, she thought as she kicked off the covers. She got up and staggered out of the room. Kakashi. A camouflage blanket dropped from the wall. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Go wake up that brat. If he wants to work out, I'll give him the workout of a lifetime, she said with an evil smile. Hi, Kakashi said as he bowed and vanished. Naruto hopped off the end of the zipline and looked around to see where he needed to go next. The sun was starting to come up, so he didn't have to squint like he did when he had first come onto the field. He spotted a tiny red arrow. There! He jumped from the platform in the direction the arrow indicated. After a few seconds, Naruto wondered if he was supposed to have flipped another lever because nothing was happening. Suddenly, two giant logs came from both sides, threatening to flatten him in the middle. He jumped out of the way just in time to see some blunted kunai shooting toward him. Arf! He took out his own kunai and deflected as many as he could, but 4 out of the 10 hit him. 2 on his right shoulder, 1 on his ribcage and the other hit his left hip. Naruto winced in pain from the kunai hitting him. Even though they were blunt, they still hurt like hell. Naruto shot forward, turning in the direction the next arrow pointed. Tsunade came out of her room, pulling on her green hari. Suddenly, Kakashi appeared in front of her, without Naruto. Where is he? She asked. Kakashi bowed as he made his report. He wasn't in his room. Tsunade cocked an eyebrow. Oh! Kakashi's expression was somewhat grave. He's nowhere in the house. Go Dame-sama, I know Naruto, and I think it's very possible that he went down to the training grounds by himself. Tsunade's eyes widened. What? In an instant, she was gone in a puff of smoke. Kakashi sighed. Naruto, you idiot. Naruto followed the next arrow into the trees. He dodged a spiked drop net. As he came to the next tree, the branch he landed on exploded. Naruto dropped about 20 feet before he felt arms under his body. What? He thought. As soon as he realized it was Tsunade, he was angry. Tsunade landed and put down a furious Naruto. Just what the hell do you think you're doing, brat? Naruto fumed, but remained silent. Do you have any idea how stupid that was? I can take care of myself. Naruto shot back. Kakashi almost got killed running this course. Naruto's eyes went wide, then he gritted his teeth and looked up at Tsunade. That doesn't mean it'll kill me. Tsunade's expression softened a bit. She turned away from the blonde-haired genin. Come back to the house, she said in a commanding voice as she began walking. I can do this. Naruto yelled. Tsunade stopped mid-step. I know you can, Naruto, she said in a soft tone of voice. Huh. Naruto had been expecting her to snap back at him again. Tsunade sniffed and hurriedly wiped her eyes with her sleeve. She turned back to Naruto. But not without me here in case something goes wrong. She sighed heavily. I don't want you to get killed. Naruto, noticing that her eyelashes were wet, looked at the Hokage in confusion. Was she crying? Tsunade closed her eyes for a moment in thought. When she opened them again, she nodded her head in decision. All right, Naruto, but let's get something to eat first, she said with a small smile. Naruto's face brightened considerably. Okay. Both ninjas turned and jumped into the trees toward the house. Tsunade was glad, as they leapt from branch to branch, that Naruto could not see the relieved tears that were carried away on the wind. Seconds, Naruto said as he held up his bowl. The maid who was serving breakfast glared at Naruto as she took the bowl from his hand. Tsunade noticed, but didn't say anything. As Naruto started downing his 4th bowl of breakfast ramen, Tsunade stood up. Excuse me, Naruto. I need to speak with Izumi for a moment, she said with a hard stare at the now nervous maid. Tsunade motioned for Izumi to follow her as she left the room. Tsunade led Izumi into a room a few doors down the hallway. She didn't want Naruto to hear the conversation that was about to take place. She shut the door and turned sharply toward Izumi, who was now looking like a cornered mouse. "If I ever see you look at Naruto that way again, you will no longer be employed at this house." "Yes, Tsunade-sama," Izumi answered. She was silent for a moment before speaking again in a voice that was strong, yet respectful. "But, I don't understand." "Why, it's just Kyuubi," she said, sounding genuinely confused. The instant she finished, she knew she shouldn't have said it, even before the loud slap that came across her face. "He is a human boy and I don't ever want to hear you suggest otherwise." Tsunade snapped. "He killed my sister." Izumi cried as she cradled her sore cheek. "Naruto is not Kyuubi. Kyuubi was sealed inside him. Naruto was keeping you and everyone you care about safe." I didn't know," Izumi answered. "Wait a minute, what do you mean he was keeping us safe?" Tsunade flinched. She'd forgotten that she hadn't told everyone about that yet. "Kyuubi is dead." "It is?" Izumi said in shock. "Yes, but that doesn't change the fact that Naruto has never been a danger to you," Tsunade said in a low voice. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. I apologize," Izumi said as she made a low bow. Tsunade, seemingly satisfied with this, nodded. "Return to your duties." Izumi bowed again. "Yes," she replied before walking out the door. Naruto stood the beginning of the course, eagerly awaiting Tsunade's signal. Suddenly, she appeared next to the platform. "Everything is reset. Are you ready?" Tsunade reported. "Yeah." Tsunade pulled the lever. "Go!" Naruto was off like a shot. He reached the end of the zipline, dodged the two swinging logs, deflected most of the blunt kunai, dodged the drop net and then made sure to use ninja wire to carry himself over the exploding branch. Seeing another arrow down and to his right, he dove in that direction. Tsunade followed the flash of orange that was Naruto by running along the ground through designated safe zones. "He's gotten faster," she thought as Naruto sped through a fearsome-looking gauntlet of fire traps. "Shit. That was close." Old Lady Tsunade wasn't kidding. This is one hell of a course, Naruto thought as he dodged the last of the walls of fire only to find himself heading right for a large net. Crap! He pulled out a kunai and sliced through it. About a second later he landed on a branch only to have it break out from under him, dropping him 10 feet to the ground. He got up and looked for the next arrow. He spotted it about 5 feet in front of him. He didn't take more than 2 steps before he noticed a tripwire on the ground. He was about to go over it when he remembered the triple wire trap that he had tripped when he and the others had gone after Sasuke. He decided to jump over it. A small landmine exploded under his feet, knocking him down. He got up and started running again. More mines exploded as he pushed forward. He dodged them easily now that he knew to look for them. Naruto saw an arrow pointing to the trees and headed up. The branch he landed on was connected to another tree about 50 feet away by a thin log. He shrugged and began to run across the log only to discover very quickly that it was not as stable as it appeared. It rolled to the side, nearly dropping him 62 feet to the forest floor. He managed to use chakra to hang on, but when he tried to climb back to the top, the log simply rolled him back to square one. Naruto dipped his head backwards and looked at the other side. Okay, he thought, nodding his head in decision. He carefully got to his feet. Once he was sure he had a solid grip, he began to run along the underside of the log using chakra. When he reached the end, he flipped down to a branch a few feet away. He looked around for the next arrow. He found it quickly and began moving again. Naruto followed an arrow down to ground level. In front of him was a large pond with several small platforms on posts about a foot out of the water. She's kidding, right? I can just run across this, he thought with a smirk. Naruto collected chakra to his feet and ran onto the pond. No more than 4 steps into his run, he noticed something moving in the water. He barely managed to miss being pulled under by a very large alligator. He immediately jumped up onto one of the platforms. Is she insane? I can't believe she had that thing in there, he thought as he jumped his way to the other side of the pond. Tsunade smiled. Very good, she thought happily. She looked ahead of his current position and frowned. I wonder how he'll do on that one. The next arrow led back into the trees again. Naruto was getting tired. He never thought the course would be so long. He made a jump to the next branch. Out of the corner of his eye he saw a large, metal ball on a chain swinging towards him. "Shit!" he yelled as he jumped up to the top of the ball and leapt for the branch ahead of him. Another ball came from the other side of him, but as he jumped to avoid that one, a third ball came from a higher position. Naruto couldn't dodge the new ball in time. "Agh!" he cried out in pain as it smashed into his body. He was sent flying toward a huge wall of spikes. "You've got to be kidding me." Naruto tucked himself into a protective ball, even though he knew it wouldn't do him any good, and prepared for the oncoming pain. No sooner had Naruto curled into a ball than he thought of a plan, uncurled and put his hands into his favorite seal, and this all happened in the space of about 3 seconds. Koge Bunshin no Jutsu. A perfect copy of Naruto formed in front of him. He pushed off the clone, made a backwards flip and landed safely on a large branch. Tsunade just stared in shock. She had been so sure that she was going to have to rescue the boy. Kakashi would be so pissed if he found out Naruto passed that one, she thought with a smirk. Naruto jumped up to the next branch to continue when he heard a shrill whistle from below. He turned to see Tsunade moving her hand in a come here gesture. "That's enough for now, Naruto," Tsunade yelled. "But I'm not tired." "I know that, but I need to get to work." Naruto half sighed, half growled in defeat before jumping down from his perch in the tree. Tsunade smiled. "You did well, brat. I'm proud of you," she remarked, ruffling the boy's hair. Naruto shook his head to remove the offending hand. Tsunade laughed. "Let's go, Naruto." Naruto smiled and followed the fifth back to the house. "Just remember to stay away from the course while I'm gone," Tsunade said as she grabbed a few books from her desk at the house. "I know," Naruto said with a bit of irritation. He didn't like being babied. Tsunade was about to go out the door when she turned her head back to look at Naruto. "Oh, and I have something I want to talk to you about when I get home," she said with a smile. Naruto cocked an eyebrow. "Okay." Tsunade turned back to the door and made a half wave. Later, Naruto decided to explore the house a bit. He hadn't had much time to look around since he was almost always at the training field. After walking through a couple of rooms, he found a long, glass hallway filled with plants. There was a cobblestone path leading down the center of it. He stepped into the hall. "This feels great." He noted the steam around him. "It's so warm in here." At the end of the hall was a door with a sign on it that read, "Hot Spring." Naruto's eyes widened in delight. When he saw the in use sign, his expression changed to one of disappointment. It could be a guy in there though, he thought. He pushed the door open just a crack. "Is anyone in here?" he asked. No answer. "Hello," he shouted. He looked at the sign again. Maybe someone left the sign on the wrong side. Naruto pushed the door open the rest of the way and walked in. He had difficulty seeing the hot spring due to the steam and stepped right off the edge into the hot water. "H!" he yelled at the temperature of the water. He heard another scream that was not his own and decidedly female. He squinted in the steam to see Nabiki backed up against the side of the spring, holding a towel up around her important features. Nabiki-chan. Forgive me," he said as he waved his hands frantically in the air in front of his face. "This isn't what it looks like, I swear," he sputtered. He covered his eyes and waited to be slapped. Nabiki calmly removed the headphones that had kept her from hearing Naruto earlier. "Naruto-kun, didn't you see the sign on the door?" she asked with a frown. Naruto cautiously straightened himself. Yeah. But no one said anything when I asked if anyone was in here." Nabiki winced. "It's my fault then. I was listening to some music. Guess I had it up too loud, she said with a half laugh. Naruto blinked. "You're not gonna hit me." Nabiki looked at him strangely. "Why would I? It was an honest mistake." Naruto raised his eyebrows. "If it had been Sakura, she would have decked me for sure."
Naruto-kun.
"Yeah. You can go now," Nabiki said with a "you've worn out your welcome" look. Naruto stood and got out of the water immediately.
Yeah.
Bye," he said quickly just before bolting out of the room. Nabiki laughed. "Too bad he's 4 years younger than me," she lamented. "He's pretty cute." With that she sunk back into the relaxing water. Tsunade spread out the previous day's reports in front of her on the desk. She sighed. Might as well get started, she thought just before she heard a knock at the door. "Yes." Gunma poked his head in. "Tsunade-sama, the head elder wishes to speak with you." Tsunade cocked an eyebrow in interest. Oh. She straightened herself and hemmed. Show her in then. The head elder walked in and Gunma left the two women alone. So, what do I owe the honor of this visit? The elder, I'm pretty sure they've never mentioned her name, pulled a small envelope from the obi of her kimono. This is the end of the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and I will see you next time.